Good morning. Linda Ward has dedicated the past 21 years to serving at the Martin Genealogy Center in Princeton, Kentucky, where she has helped countless individuals research their family histories. Her passion for history and genealogy has led her to attend numerous genealogy conferences and complete a variety of specialized courses over the years. Linda currently serves as a Caldwell County Historian and is a past registrar for the General John Caldwell Chapter of the Daughters of the American Revolution. She is also actively assisting individuals with applications to the Sons of the American Revolution, which, Roger, you would be maybe want to talk to her. And on a personal note, Linda and her husband recently celebrated their 50th wedding anniversary at a surprise celebration planned by their 10 grandchildren, planned by her husband, I might add, all of whom were present for the occasion. So join me in welcoming Miss Linda Ward.
Good morning, and I am so thrilled to be here. I love to talk about my job, and which is at the Martin Genealogy Center, and I've been there, like I said, they opened in September of 2005, where they're at right now. Now, the genealogy section has been there for years. It was in the basement of the library, and what a lot of our patrons have called the dungeon, because you had to go down a skinny little side steps and go around a little skinny hallway to get to the very back. And there was some windows at the very top of the room, but it's in the basement of the library for years. And so whenever we got over where we're at now, I've had several people come in and said, "Oh, you're not in the dungeon anymore." Yeah, that's about what it looked like. But anyway, we've been there, like I said, since September of 2005, and I was there when they opened. This is my dream job. I love it. I mean, I've always done genealogy for years and years and years, but now that I've got the history part to go with it, and some of the questions that we get is just, what's history to some people surprises you. But in fact, one of my favorite questions, and it took me about 3 days to find the answer to this one. I had a gentleman that come in and he said, "Well, when did they pave the road from Dawson to Princeton?" That took a lot of hunting, and newspapers.com was very helpful, because I ended up going to the Dawson paper, and it showed me that they opened it in about 1936, I believe it was. And so, yeah, I mean, it took a while. And I was so happy with myself that I made a copy of it, and I went to the guy's house and I said, "Here," so anyway. But yeah, we have a lot of different questions that historical question. What's history to some people is not the same as it is to others. I think genealogy is just, that's your family history. And that's an important part of what we do, but we have a lot of other files. And that's what I brought today to show. Of course, y'all have such a wonderful area. And so it's a wonderful museum. Princeton needs another one. We've got Adsmore, but that is just that family, and so we don't have another one. We did have a railroad museum, and Mr. Glenn Martin was in charge of it. That's who the Martin Genealogy Center is named for, because now while, and it was the people from Adsmore, Robert Garrett was the one that owned the Adsmore building, and he had built several places in Princeton. And one of them is the building that we're located in. It was built in 1927. And so anyway, Mr. Martin was an old railroader. He was a bachelor, very tight with his money, made some good investments. He was our second county historian, Sam Sticker being the first one. I'm the third one. But anyway, he donated the money whenever they were talking about they'd like to get it out of the basement. He donated the money to have the renovations done at the building. And so it's because the library already owned that site. And so we're right on the corner. I tell everybody we're at the only stoplight on Main Street. You just turn to look to your right and there we are. We have a nice large facility that leaked a lot last week. I bought a lot of water last week. But anyway, some of the things that we have, and this is what is going to surprise you because it did me. We have about once a year, they'll bring school children in and they just do a walk around town showing them because honestly, our kids don't know what downtown is anymore. The school is out at the edge of town, and so they don't go downtown. And so they take them and they walk around and they have little talks for about 20 minutes. One of the things that was a surprise to me, it should have been, but it was, they're fifth graders, okay? And so we were trying to tell them, you know, a little bit about genealogy, a little bit about history, that sort of thing. My coworker, which now I'm the only full-time when we have three part-time workers. And we are paid by the library because we are part of the library. But anyway, a phone book. They had no idea. 5 of about 100 kids knew what a phone book was. I mean, that blowed my mind to think, you know. And in fact, the teacher, she was young, but it surprised her that they didn't know it either. She said, "Oh my gosh, I remember these at my grandmother's house." Yeah. Now, another thing that I really enjoy, we don't have very many of them, but is our city directories. And they are so full of things that you just wouldn't see anymore because naturally we have to be so private anymore. But it tells who owns the house, where they live, where they worked, who the wife or the was. Some of the time is the children are listed in there. And so we have 4 or 5 of these, and that's just wonderful that a lot of people don't know about city directories. You know, of course, it's only that in one city. One of the other things that we have, this is an index to the bastard bonds. Now this goes in. This is a lot of he said, she said. This is just the index, but we do have the records there at the house. I mean, at the building. And I had listed them by mothers and by fathers and tell you what volume they're in and all this. But it's a lot of, you know, because the county did not want to pay for a child that, you know, they were going to have to pay for a child. So they pretty much, I think, forced the mother to try to tell who it was a father, so he would have to pay. And yes, so that went on for a long time. I was really surprised about that. One thing I have put together is the early Caldwell County divorces. And this, you think that they didn't get divorced at that time early on, but there was more of them than, not like today, of course, but there were several. It really surprised me how many there were. Starting at the first, now like this one, this is in book 19, the circuit court record books or county court record books. And there's only 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, about 10 of these. And this is 1865 and 66. So, but yeah, there are several. And I also put down the book and the page number so you can look it up for yourself. We've got the books at the genealogy in the back in a temperature controlled room, which is wonderful for those big old leather bound books. But of course, they had before us, they were in the basement of the courthouse and in the attic of the circuit court. And so all that heat change and dampness and all this, they're in kind of rough shape. But occasionally the authority of the court, AOC, comes by and just checks to make sure we've got them there, you know. So, but we keep them in the back. Not most people get to go back there, but we'll take somebody back if they want to look at something in particular. So anyway, then the biggest book there. Oh, no. Yeah.
That's it.
We have been working on for several years now our veterans, you know, and of course from all wars. And we've got a lot of, and that's what we've done. We've done them with notebooks. And I've worked on 1812. I've worked on the war with Mexico, the Spanish-American War. The biggest collection we have is World War II because it was easier to find information on that. And what we've done, you know, we've got a lot of ancestry where they will put it online where you can get it. But we also had a lot of things in the newspapers that would tell about a certain person. So we went through we didn't actually go through 2 different times in 1 week. We had people bring scrapbooks that they had kept over the years. And they were just full of all these little things where they had gone, overseas, and it was telling about them. Well, like this one right here is Private Jackson Spends Christmas with Home Folks. And it was Private Richard H. Jackson, son of Mr. and Mrs. Rufus Jackson. And it told where he was usually at, and he had come in for Christmas. And so, I mean, we have for every letter, in the alphabet. And like I said, this is just World War II. Now we've been working on Vietnam, and it's harder to find information on those. You wouldn't think it would be, but it is. But anyway, we have managed to get quite a bit. I mean, we've got several things like that. We're also worked on Korea. We've got of course, there's the ones that were in between wars, and so we've got to put it in a separate section. We've got the women in the war, because every now and then somebody will come up and ask, well, I heard my aunt was in World War II, and I'd like to know more about her, and so we put it separately so that we could kind of keep up with it a little easier. One of our biggest projects, and it's been the one just lately, has been, we got cabinets built for our microfilm. We had microfilm before, but back a couple of years ago, I guess it's been at least 2 years ago, I got a notice from a woman in Texas that was at the library there, and she had several things that had Caldwell County roots, and she wanted to know if we'd be interested. She said they were downsizing. Did we want them? And I said, of course, we'd like to have it. And so at the very end of her list, and she had it for several different counties, but at the end of her list was the Revolutionary War land bounties. Okay, so I had heard of them. I knew about them. I didn't realize how many things reels of microfilm there were. And so she asked me, she said, now you realize how big this is. And I said, well, no, tell me again, And so she did, because I said, oh, I'd love to have that. I don't know where we put it, but I've got some microfilm cabinets that are a little empty. You got a little space. No, there was 2,670 reels of microfilm.
Oh,
So
what are bounties exactly?
okay, it's when they served, and this at the time of the Revolutionary War, the country didn't have money. And so what they gave was land. A private sometimes got like 650 acres. I mean, it depended on your rank, on how much land you got. And now if you were in Virginia, you got Kentucky land, because Virginia owned Kentucky. If you were in North Carolina, you got Tennessee land, because they owned that part. And so that was this area is just full of Revolutionary War bounty land, because that's where they gave it from. And so this is, like I said, we have them now. It was a trial trying to get cabinets. We looked for used cabinets, microfilm cabinets. Now, they couldn't be very tall because I'm short. And the other lady that works on Saturdays is shorter than me. And so if the cabinet got very tall and you're trying to look at the top of the box to see, we didn't want to climb up on the ladder to look down to see what the name was. So I told him, I said, well, 9 shelves is as deep, 9 drawers is as deep as we can go, because it would be, and as it is, it's about this tall. We had to have them made. We had to have 4 of them made to house them all. And then we just did. I've got about this much space left in the last drawer. I cut that one really close on figuring how much it would take. But yes, this is Lloyd Bostock did a book telling about the bounty land grants, and it's an interesting book. It explains a whole lot of how they got their land. And so, yeah, you ought to look that up sometime. Yes. And he's wrote several books. Well, I don't know if he's still living, but Lloyd Bostock, Bockstruck. But yeah, anyway, so we have those housed there now, and we've got them all alphabetical. It took us one weekend, and
Missing 3 part.
Yeah, we're missing about 2 rolls that they didn't send, but apparently, but anyway. Also, one of the things that we have are college years books. A lot of people give us things. They're downsized, they're going to a rest home, they want something to do with their stuff. Thank goodness the family's not throwing it in the dump, and so we don't turn much down because of that. I'm afraid that, in fact, there was one that we're in the process of getting now. She's 98 years old. They've just put her in a rest home. Her oldest son just died, and this young one come up, and he said, "Well, I got to get rid of everything. I got to empty the house. I got to put her in a rest home because I got to go back to Florida." And so there were several of us because she's right on the line of Hopkins and Caldwell, and so people from the Hopkins County Historical Society talked to him, and then we talked to him, and so he said, "All right, if you can come get it, I'll wait long enough for you to unload it." But there's a lot of it, and there was, and still is, because we don't have it all yet. He had to go back to Florida, so we'll have to wait till he gets back to get the rest of it. But Robert made what, three trips with the van and a truck, and 50 years worth of genealogy. And that's why we talked to him. I said, "Please, whatever you do, don't throw it away." He said, "If y'all don't come get it, it's going in the dump." And I thought, it just hurt. That hurts to think of that. She put so much time and money into it. So anyway, we have it there. We're going to have to go through it. And I told the people at Hopkins County that I would, if anything that we didn't need, I would make sure they got. So we've got to go through it. We haven't got that done yet. But anyway, so one of the things, though, that give to us is a lot of college year books and school books, and that are school annuals. And so I have a list here. Bethel College in 1930, we have a college yearbook for it. Purdue in 1969. We've got Transylvania from 1960. And then we've got the Crittenden County School Annual for 47, 48, 51, and 52. We've got Livingston County 1959. It's just different ones that people, they don't, the families didn't want, who knows. One thing that we went through and I've asked for help with and was very pleased that I got this much help. Beauty shops. You don't think of that as being history necessarily, but it is. The things that we have, beauty shops and barber shops. And I've got here like the modern beauty shop. I've got the address, and there was the Wadlingtons and the Walkers. And this was all in 1935. And so then I've got some of them where they may have been under a different name, but and I've got a contact that his mother was a beautician. He's a beautician. His sister was a beautician. So I told him, I said, "Just make me a list," and he did. He came up with a large list, and I was able to, and so I've got it by the 40s, the 50s, the 60s, who else. You don't think much about it, except that when I got to looking at it, and it really surprised me, after the 60s, it really dropped off on how many beauty shops there were. And so I'm thinking, wonder why, there's still everybody with hair, so, wonder why. It wasn't so much a money problem, I don't think. Arvin's is a factory that was in Princeton, and a lot of women went to work there. And I think that's what it was. I think the beauticians, there were so many of them, they weren't making that much money. You could make more at a factory. And I think that's where a lot of it, I noticed there was a big drop on how many beauticians there were in town because of that. And so, history, it just brings up more questions a lot of times. Let's see. Then I was going to tell you about this. Let's see here. Oh, okay. The things that we do have at the library here, we've got Ancestry Library Edition. The library pays for that one. 403, now that I pay for that one. And newspapers.com, I pay for that one. And then there's Hathy Trust. And it's interesting because you can, it's spelled HATHITRUST. Now, it is a digital library, and you can bring up books, and you can read them online. from that one. I mean, it's neat.
Is there a subscription fee for that one?
No, there's not. And I'll leave this paper up here for you. You can look at that. Also, our family files. We have a lot of, we've got black cabinets, file cabinets. I think there's 5 or 6 of them. We have over 2,600 family files. Now, I will tell you that the Oliver family file, there is about,
Takes up whole drawer.
it's about 40 family files on that because there was a Mr. Willis Oliver. No, it was Oliver. I can't think of his first name. They called him something else. But anyway, he had wrote whenever genealogy was writing to people, and waiting for the mail, he wrote to lots of people and got lots of information. And so when he died, his wife brought us all these just crates of correspondence that he had. And rather than separate it all up or throw it in one thing, I left it just the way he had it. And we just put it in the family file, ABCD. And well, until I think it's letter DD, we went through so many of them. And so we have those. We don't throw any of our family files away. We have notes and letters from people from the 1950s in our files. And because, you never know. One day there might be somebody, oh, that's where they found that out. So that's why we keep all that. Another thing that we do have, and I just got to look, I had a guy come in and he said, because for years our newspaper did it was called the Gourmet Corner. And they interviewed women mostly. And it would tell their, who their family was and their children and all this and what they did and where they worked or if they worked or whatever. But then they would have several recipes on there. Okay. Well, this guy come in, he said, I cannot find my mother's recipe for such and such. And he said, I know she was in the Gourmet Corner. And he said, I just want to find that recipe. And so he looked and looked and looked. He didn't find it. He spent 3 or 4 days there looking because this went on for a long time. And so I got to thinking, that would be something, especially for the women that, because the men, you see what they're doing, but a lot of times the women, you don't. So now I've only gone back to 1979 and I've got to get back further and it goes up into the 2000s. But I made a list of the women and then their married name also, because so many of them is Mrs. So-and-so. But yeah, and so we've got just lots and lots and lots of this. Now, I didn't do the recipes. It's not a cookbook. I just made a listing of the women so that we'd know who they were. One other thing that we've got, and I really enjoy this one in particular, is the naturalization papers that are in the court books. And I made a list, and we've got the regular paper in the notebook. I made a copy of it. But this is like when, Edward Baker, and on the 18th of August of 1862, declared his intent to become an American citizen. And so then we've got several. I put it alphabetically. There was Abraham Just. His was in 1842. The Garretts, Samuel and Robert Garrett, and they were in the 1840s. And so we have the paperwork there where they've come through. It's in a court record. And so we just made a list so that if anybody was interested, I know where to look for it at, So that's our main thing, is just trying to help people, because everybody, while you enjoy it, you don't have all the time in the world to look for things. And so we try to make it as easy. I don't want to do their work for them, but I do want to make it easy and where they can spend their time well, and so I try to help them that way. We do have some newbies, which is like somebody that comes in and says, well, I've never done any research. I don't know anything about it. And so I tell them, take the family group sheet, take your lineage chart, and this is how you fill it out. If you don't know these things, that's where you start. You start at what you know, you work your way backwards. And so you've got to find out what you don't know about it first. And I said, it's important to find your way back, or you're not going to be able, because I have people that come in and they want to know where great uncle Jasper is living at or was living at or something, and I'm going, you don't really know that that's your great uncle until you do the lineage back. So, it's an important part on that. Uh, I'm helping a guy with an SAR. Well, I've already helped him do his application, but I'm helping him with a supplemental. And the McElmurray, that was one of the names that I read because it's a Ramage, Jimmy Ramage's family. And so, yeah, I saw that name. I thought, oh, I know that name, But anyway, any questions?
I,
Oh, go ahead, go ahead.
I think you're playing Rosie the Riveter, is that one?
Yes, at the Liberty, what do they call it?
Legacy of Liberty.
Legacy of Liberty at Marion. Yes, I'm going to do Rosie the Riveter, or actually her name was Gladys Walker. She's buried at Fredonia. I did her for the Fredonia Ghost Walk several years ago. It was an interesting part, and they was needing somebody to do that kind of thing. They're doing such of a timeline. They have a huge amount they're going to do on that. I don't know how they're going to get it all done, but
During World War II, a lot of women from this area.
absolutely.
Moved to Evansville.
Yes.
There was a
Yes.
landing craft. They built a landing
Mhm.
crafts in Evansville.
Well, Miss Walker moved to Detroit. She was already in Detroit, but she moved to Detroit to find a job when she graduated from Fredonia High. And so she moved there, and she managed to get on at the factory. In fact, she was one of the supervisors because she'd worked there for so long. But yeah, and it was just neat to hear. Well, actually, I was fortunate to talk to her daughter-in-law. And so she told me a lot of what she knew about what the Gladys had told her. And so it was kind of neat just to really get into that. And then at the Ghost Walk, whenever for Fredonia back several years ago, and I did that part, and I had a guy come up to me and he said, "Oh, look down there, there's your grandchildren." And I'm looking and I'm going, I don't see my grandchildren down there. And he said, "No, it's Gladys's grandchildren." I'm going, oh my gosh. That you talk about pressure, I'm trying to play their grandmother. So anyway, but yeah, so the daughter-in-law was there with them. And so before I started, I said, "I'm going to step out of character for a second." I went over and gave her a big hug. And I said, "Thank you for all the information you gave me," because I was dressed in the coveralls. I had the red bandana on the head. I had red lipstick because she said she loved red. And I said, "Okay, yeah, I know how to do that." So that's basically what I'll be doing at Marion then this weekend. And they told me whenever they said that, and I said, "It's going to be Info's Hall." I said, "That's air conditioning in July." I'll take that part. Yes.
Tell me, what year was Caldwell County?
1809, and we were cut out of Livingston in 1809.
Okay, and then this, the bounty, the microfilm.
Mhm.
Tell me again who you received those from.
Okay, that come from a library it wasn't Dallas.
South side of Houston.
Yeah, it was down in mid Texas, and they were just they were getting ready to downsize, and they had done a lot of it in digital form, and so they were getting rid of their microfilm. And I did try to buy their microfilm, but we couldn't find a way to get down there to pick it up to bring it.
Oh.
It had to be picked up in a certain length of time, and that's why we ended up having to have cabinets made.
So how would you research that?
Okay, you could do that online. A lot of it'll be online. And then you can look at the name, and then you'll go to that because they're alphabetical on the microfilm. And so we've got it all set up where you can find it alphabetically. And yeah, we can, I haven't done any of it yet.
Yep.
Come up there and we're open from, we're open Monday through Saturday, 10 to 3. Now, I'm not usually there on Saturday, but most of the time I could be. But yeah,
You get called every Saturday.
yeah, I get a lot of calls on Saturday, but anyway. But yeah, I'm the only full-time when I'm the, I don't have a title, unless it's just the person to get blamed for things, but anyway.
And is that the entirety of the bounties that's contained on that microfilm?
It's going to tell where the land is, I believe. I really haven't looked at them because we've just been overloaded lately, but yeah, I need to go through because I've got a lady that's wanting to go through DAR in fact, she's put her paperwork in and she said, well, I think mine had some bounty land here and I'd like to know more about it. And so I told her I will look that up. I just hadn't had a chance to do it yet. But yeah, it's alphabetical on the microfilm, and then you just go through the reel trying to find the right letters. And yeah, it's everybody that got bounty land. So yeah, it's a big, like I said, over 2,600 reels.
And when is that, was it the original, or do they have one written on that, 2002, or?
I don't know, Don. I haven't looked at it that closely, but yeah, I'm sure they filmed everything. I'm sure. So yeah, that was well, I don't know that the WPA wouldn't have been that, but it would. It's probably National Archives or something.
Yep.
Anyway, but anyway, well, I appreciate it, and I always enjoy that. I love my topic, so I've always enjoyed doing it, and I've got my dream job, so this is what I like to talk about, and it's wonderful to be able to have a dream job. I'm going to be 72 in a week or so, and I guess they'll kick me out one of these days, but until they do, I guess I'll still be there. But y'all come visit us sometime. We'll be happy to show you what we've got and try to help you find something. And like I said, we've got most books that are done on the surrounding counties. We've got just about everything that has been done, what we can find. And of course, like everything else, you run out of space. We don't have duplicates of anything but now, like I said, Brenda Joyce, she gave us a lot of things whenever she was downsizing. And then, in fact, we made 2 trips up there to get things from her.
I'm the driver.
Yeah. And so anyway, yeah, we've got several. She had already given us several books and things. And so now the Genealogy Society is kind of like our friends of the genealogy, and they sell the books, and they give us the money to help with other projects. They gave us the money because the cabinets cost
$1,820 a piece.
a piece. Yeah. And we had to have 4 of them. So I hit the library up for one. I hit the Genealogy Society up for one. The Morgan Foundation helped us with one. And then there was a Historical Society was the other one that helped us. So,
That's
yeah.
really, really.
And I hate asking for money. I really do. We try to be as saving as we can over there. We reuse our paper all the time and that sort of thing, but we just needed it. Having it in boxes and boxes, and I mean, we had a lot of boxes of it.
We filled up one little old room.
Yeah, it took up the mount room. It just was full. You couldn't get around there. And we do have a lot of maps too. Some of them got wet the other day. That was our leak. But
What kind of maps?
we've got cemetery maps for Caldwell County. We've got early maps.
Road maps?
We've got a few road maps. Mostly they're just land, is what they are. But yeah, we've got the 1826 Kentucky. We've got, and then I've got some stagecoach maps. I thought that was really neat. Steamboat and scrape stagecoach maps, and for each year. And they're, about every 3rd or 4th year they would make one, and it just shows you the trail. That's how people got around. I mean, I had a lady that called the other day, and she said they're kicking on this application because they said, well, he couldn't have been in central Kentucky and then got down to western Kentucky, and it couldn't be the same person. Well, it turned out it wasn't. But I said, no, they could have. This. You're talking, I think it was 1850. And I said, now, while we didn't have a railroad in Princeton until the 1870s, I said, there was stagecoaches. There was river travel. They traveled the river, and then they took a stagecoach up. I mean, there was ways to get around. And in fact, I Googled it then to see about the stagecoaches. And it only took like 2.5 days to go from Frankfort down to Princeton. So, I mean, you think that's not that much for that time back then, where, I mean, of course, it takes about 4 or 5 hours now, but yeah, I thought that was kind of interesting that, but yeah, they didn't think, oh, there's no way that's going to be the same person. Well, it turned out it wasn't, but it could have been, it wasn't that outlandish. So, if there's, yeah, y'all come visit me sometime. I'm there, like I said, Monday through Friday usually, so.
Search night Tuesday.
And we do have research night for our genealogy society every other Tuesday night,
Tuesday night.
every other month, on the third Tuesday. And, third Tuesday.
Third Tuesday.
So we've got so many different organizations we're in, it's hard to keep up with everything.
Well, this Tuesday is.
Yeah,
research.
tomorrow night is our research night.
And
So.
if you're gonna.
And we're open so that, because some people can't come. They say, oh, you close at 3 o'clock. We can't get there at that time. We work. And so that's why we started having a nighttime where we would stay open and do that. And of course, we just give our time for that. We're not being paid for that part. I am paid. I mean, that's one of the questions that always surprises me. People come in, well, do you get paid to do this? Yes, this is my job. I get paid to be here, but, yeah. So like I said, it's my dream job though. I love it. So anyway,
Well, thank you so
thank you
much.
for
We
having
appreciate
me.
it.